This video is going to be on how to create a basic HTML5 layout with 3 columns. What I'm going to do first is I am going to put my cursor in the right place. Note that I've already attached a style sheet. So I'm going to put my cursor in between the body tags, give myself a little bit of room in code just to give myself some space. And I'm going to create that overall container first. So what I'm going to do is go Insert Div. I'm going to call it Container, add that class name, and say OK. Now what I'm going to do is nest other boxes within that div, because that's going to be the parent div. And I'm also going to put an HTML comment here so I know where the end of this div is. So I will apply comment and I'll call it end of container. Okay, I'm going to put my cursor in between, and the first thing I'm going to do is add a header. So I'm going to go Insert Header, and I could give it a class name, and just so you get used to doing it, I will call it main header and say OK. After the header, my cursor's right here. I'm going to hit the return key, and I'm going to put navigation in here, or a nav bar. So I'm going to go Insert Navigation, and I'll call it main nav and say OK. Note that I'm not putting any spaces in here in my names. After the nav, I'm going to put a large jumbo image in here. So I'm going to add a div, Insert Div, and I'll call this one main photo and say OK. At the end of that div, I'm going to put 3 articles, but I'm going to wrap a section around it. What do I mean by that? What I'm going to do is go ahead and insert an article, and I'm going to have 3. They're going to be columns that sit next to each other. So I'm going to call this article 1 for a class name. At the end of that article, I'm going to hit the return key. My cursor's right here. Insert article. I'm going to call this one article 2. My cursor's right here. And just to do something a little bit different, what I have been doing is insert article, but this time what I'm going to do, just to save time, I'm going to copy this, edit, copy. At the end of it, I'm going to hit the return key and paste, and all I'm going to do is change the number here, the class name, to 3. Now what I want to do is wrap a section tag around all these. So I have them selected, and I'm going to go Insert Section, and I will call this main section. And wrap around is what's selected here, and I'm going to say OK. So if I look here in code, that section tag is wrapped around these 3 articles. At the end of the section, I am going to put a footer. So I'm going to go Insert Footer, and I'll just call this main footer. Okay, and say OK. Now, I do want to make sure that all these elements or sections are wrapped in this main container. I can see here, when I select it here, I can see the end here. I've got the nav, I've got the header, I've got the nav, I've got the div for the photo, I've got the section, and that has those 3 articles. All right, what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to the container and I'm going to add a selector. So I'm opening up my CSS Designer. Okay, there is my style sheet right there, and I'm going to add a selector for it. There it is. Now I could do these individually, but what I tend to like to do is add the selector and then do the formatting or add the properties. So I think I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to select main header, I'm going to add the selector. There it is. Okay, then the nav, I'm going to add the selector. There it is. I'm going to do the one for the main photo, add the selector. I'm going to do the one for the section, add the selector, and next the article, add, next the article 2, add, article 3, add, and then I'll do the footer, add. Now I have them all. If I look in my CSS designer, I just have the selectors, but I don't have any formatting or any properties associated with them yet, but I will do that next. Now I'm going to go to the container and I'm going to give it a width, and I'm going to choose pixels, and I'm going to set the width at what is required for the last project, which I believe is 1280. Okay, so I can see it there. I like to use things that are a little bit shorter for demonstration purposes because it's just a little bit easier to see on my screen. But anyway, now I don't need the placeholder text here. I do want that wrapper, but I do not need the placeholder text. So I'm going to get rid of the placeholder text by hitting the return key or the delete key. Okay. I still have that container, it doesn't have any text in there, kind of bracing it open. All right, so I set that at 1280. I'm also going to center the container. So I'm going to the margin properties here in layout. I'm going to set the margins to auto. So it's automatically going to figure out the margins. You can see that in design mode. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the header and I'm going to give it some height. So in the layout properties under height, I'm going to make it pixels and make it, maybe I'll make it 70. Okay, there we go. Okay, I'm going to come back to the navigation. The photo that I plan to put in this photo area here, I already have it cropped, and I know that the photo has a height of 300, so I'm going to set the height here on .main photo of pixels and an amount of 300. Okay, there we go. I'm going to add some filler text to this layout. I'm going to stop the video, and after I do that, I'll continue. So I added some filler text here for these articles, some text for the footer, some text for the header area, and I did some basic formatting, meaning I made this one in H1, I made these articles each in H2, footer in H4. I'm going to stop the video and just add some background colors to these boxes. So all I did is I just went to each of these selectors and I added a background color just so you could see them a little bit better in the layout. Okay, next what I'm going to do is change all these articles, the widths, and if I divide 1880 by 3, that is about 426 pixels. What I'm going to do is just kind of round it out and make each of these the width 400. Article 2, width 400. And the Article 3, 400. And since I'm not doing 426, it actually gives me some wiggle room when I want to add padding. Now I'm going to tell each of these articles to float to the left. I'm not going to tell one to float to the right because I've got 3. There is no setting for something in the middle. So I'm going to tell them all to float to the left. And it makes it a little bit easier when you've got them wrapped in, like I have here, this main section. So I'm going to go to Article 1. I'm going to go to the layout properties where it's float. I'm going to float to the left. You're not going to see anything happen because it's already to the left. But when I do it to article 2, it pops up here. I'm going to do it to article 3 as well, float to the left. Keep in mind, once you do that, it is going to affect the footer. If I scroll down, I'm not going to see the footer. So I am going to go to the footer, and I'm going to say clear floats. Before I did, the footer actually ended up right above here. So basically the clear is saying go back to normal page flow after that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and preview in the web. So I'm going to go down to the lower right hand corner and go ahead and click on preview in Safari. It's asking me to save, style sheet save. All right, well, it's coming along. I'm going to come back and I'm going to adjust the article heights and maybe even the footer. Let me tackle the footer. I'm going to give the footer a specific height. So I'm in the layout properties and I'm going to give it a height of 30 pixels. Okay. Also note that because paragraphs, headers, all the headers have a specific or default padding, that is something that's going to be causing problems. So I want to zero these out and add my own padding, my own margins. So I'm going to add that universal selector at the top here of my cascading style sheet. So I'm right here. Again, I'm just going to type it out. It's a really easy to do. I'm going to put the asterisk for that universal selector. I'm going to do curly brackets. I'm going to give myself some room here in the code. I'm going to do margin. Select it here so I don't do a typo. Even when I select it, Dreamweaver will put that colon in there for me. 0, I do have to put the semicolon. I'm going to hit the return key and type out padding. I'm going to select it right here. I'm going to do 0 and semicolon. Okay. Notice what happened in design mode. All those default margins and paddings are now gone. Okay, let me go ahead and preview on the web again. Safari, save. Okay. All right. Again, I would have to come in and put my own padding on all the text here, but it's coming along. Okay, and the next thing I want to do is add an image in this main photo area here. Now there's two things I can do. I can get rid of this placeholder text, or what I could do is put the image in the background of this box and still have text on the top. So there's two ways of going about doing it. So I need to decide which one I'm going to do. I think I will put the image in the background just to show you that. So I am going to my CSS designer, going to go to container.mainPhoto. I'm going to go to the background. I'm going to go to background image and I'm going to look for the image. And I do believe I have one that is that size. So I'm going to click here, Art 116, name folder and images. And I have one that's here. It's not the best image, but it is an image. All right, now the text that you see was actually created in Photoshop. Okay, I'm noticing that I had forgotten that I made my layout 1280. So I'm going to go into Photoshop and create an image that actually fits this layout. So I am going to put this on hold. Right now I can see that it's tiling and I don't want it to tile. So I'm going to put a hold on this. I'm going to make an image that is 1280 with a width of 300. I made that image and now I'm going to go ahead and delete this one and put the proper size image in here. So I need my CSS designer. So I'll bring that over. I'm going to hit the trash can for this one and I'm going to look for that new image. I'm going to browse to it, navigate to my image folder. It looks like I'm already in my image folder and this one's the proper size and I'm going to open. Okay, let me go ahead and preview in the web and save. Now, since this image was in the background of this box, I could also do something with this text, or what I could do is when I was in Photoshop, I could have added text in Photoshop and added it to the image. It's all what you want to do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a navigation bar, and I'm going to use one that is included in Canvas in the files download. Okay, I'm going to open up a navigation bar, so I'm going to go File, Open. I've already got those on my desktop, so I'm going to find them. They're right here. This first one I think is really good, so I'm going to, I didn't say good, I'm going to open it up. I am going to copy the HTML, scrolling down, going to copy all that text and go Edit, Copy. I do want you to note that this is simply called nav. And that's going to be important in a minute. I'm going to go back to my column layout here, this file. I'm going to switch to the source code or the HTML. I'm going to scroll up. Now, originally I set up this one with a class name of nav. I am actually going to delete that one out, and I'm going to replace it with the new one. So I'm going to go Edit, Paste. Okay, again, it's an unstyled, unordered list that does have pseudo links in here. I'm going to grab the styling. Again, I'm not going to pick up the style tag, but just all the styles that are associated with that navigation bar. I've got them all selected, and I'm going to go Edit, Copy, flip back to this file, and I'm going to open up my CSS here file, and I'll place them all at the bottom. All these styles are rules. Okay, based on how this navigation bar was created, you cannot see the results in design mode. So I am going to preview on the web and save, and yes. All right, I definitely could add more links at the top here, so let me go ahead and do that. And just as a review here, I'm going to go back to my source code. I'm just going to copy this list item that's in this nav bar. I'm going to select it all. I'm going to go Edit, Copy. At the end of it, this list tag, I am going to hit the return key and I'm going to paste. Instead of having to contact us, I'll change this one to jobs. Okay. What I've already done is I stripped out the background colors of each of these articles, and now they're getting the background color from that overall container. What I'm going to do is I'm going to change that color, and I'm also going to change the color in the body, the white here. So let me get to my CSS designer, and I'll first tackle the body here. And I am going to make it maybe this light shade here. So I'm going to grab the eyedropper tool and pick up this color, maybe even make it a little bit lighter here. Hit the return key. I can see how it changed here. And I'm just going to make the container white, the background color of white. And let me go ahead and preview on the web. I definitely want to still make sure that I'm giving some padding to these H2s and to the paragraphs, but I will let you go ahead and do that. The only thing I do want to show you is how you can format this item here. So I'm going to close this, and if I take a look at this here in Code View, this currently does not have any formatting. It's just placeholder text. So I'm going to give it maybe an H tag. So I'm going to open up my properties panel, and I will give it, maybe I'll give it a paragraph, and then I'll apply a class. I think I'll do that. Now it has the paragraph tag here, and I'm going to set up a class. going to add, and I'm going to call it dot main photo text. I'm going to go to the text properties. I'm going to center that text. I'm going to make it white so it has nice contrast from the background here. I'll give it a font family, and just so you can see it, not that I think this is a great idea, but I'm going to do impact. I'm also going to add some padding so it moves it down from the top. And I'll just set it at 200 from right now, and I probably will go back and I'll change things a little bit. Okay, here select all that text here. I'm going to go to my properties panel and I'm going to find that class. All right, if I take a look at it now in preview mode, all right, well, I definitely want to make changes. I definitely don't want to have this particular text, but you can see how it can be done.